Welcome everybody to round 9, game of the day of the 2016 British Chess Championships. We're well into the business end of the tournament and it seems as though Mickey Adams is pulling away from the rest of the field. So my game for this round is the board 1 clash between Adams playing black and Gawain Jones playing white. Of course, over the last couple of days, Adams had a tough time, as tough as it can get, playing both black against David Howe and Gawain, winning both games. So he seems to be in tremendous form. Now, of course, Jones, being behind in terms of points, had to play for a win. So again, he plays his favourite English opening, an opening which guarantees a complicated middle game if white desires that. And after c4, e6, there came g3. Whereupon Mickey Adams sets up perhaps the most solid formation of all, a kind of Queen's Gambit formation, just bringing his pieces out, pawn in the centre, castling, inviting white to do his worst. And white now decides to play b3. Obviously he could go d4, that would take us back into the Catalan. b3 is a more restrained system, again very much in keeping with this gradual building up of tension in order to play for the win. Perhaps a supreme example of this art was the final game of the Kasparov-Karpov match in Seville in 1987, where Kasparov employed a system exactly like this to rack up the tension against Karpov. He was 12-11 down in the match, needed to win to retain his title, and in the end came through triumphantly. So perhaps Jones was hoping to build pressure of the same type. Anyway, Adams plays a free-flowing system with c5, it's a pretty good move, and Jones keeps the game in the realm of the English opening by playing e3 first, and now bishop to b2. Well, this is the most popular move here, but seeing what happens in the game, there's a definite argument for queen e2. That's less played than bishop b2, but the idea is that if white plays bishop b2, as he does in the game, black can go d4 and try to shut in that bishop. And in fact, this becomes a theme of the ensuing play in this particular encounter. Of course, after queen e2, d4 will make less sense because the bishop's still on c1. Perhaps he can come out into active play along the c1 h6 diagonal. But there, after queen e2, white's got to reckon with a move like d takes c4. Anyway, there's plenty of games with that system if you want to look it up. Bishop b2 was played, and now Adams comes in with a good move, d4. White takes, as he should, and now rook to e1. Whereupon black plays a very careful move, rook to e8. d3, and now bishop to c5. So what we've got here is a reversed modern Benoni, where there are a couple of peculiarities. First, from white's perspective, this bishop on b2 is less than ideally placed. And secondly, black's put his bishop on c5. Now in the modern Benoni, you'd hardly ever see a bishop there, because white, in the corresponding position, would be thinking of putting a knight on c4, in this case c5. But black feels it necessary here to put the bishop on c5, so this makes the situation a little bit unusual. Jones plays knight e5. Well, this is the independent idea that you never get to play in the modern Benoni, which is supposed to give white a slight edge in this position, but seeing what happens in this game, I'm not sure I believe it. The idea of knight e5 is fairly simple, to clear the diagonal for that bishop on g2, to make it a very strong piece. Clearly white can flick in the moves a3 and a5 and then go knight e5. Well, I'm not too sure that makes an enormous difference in the position. There was a game Movsesian versus Shamoev, Chelyabinsk 2016, where white decided to dispense with knight e5 for the time being and just play another modern Benoni move. Black played e5, a3, a5, all very simple. And now white made it slightly different by putting his knight on g5. Trying to clear the decks by playing a knight to e4. But black maintained a pretty comfortable position just by putting his bishop out on g4. White played queen to c2, queen d7. White went through with his plan, forcing an exchange of knights. But you see, black's intentions here are more modest than white would correspondingly be in the modern Benoni. You know, black can consider just dropping his bishop back to f8, and he's got a comfortable game. You have to say that white has got the usual queenside trump of a poor majority there, but it's hard to see him pushing those pawns because of that lousy bishop on b2. So the time white has to spend redeploying that bishop to get it to a good square, black's going to spend on getting his pieces into good position. So although white won this game of Movsesians, at this stage it's pretty equal. Jones, needing to win, goes through with knight e5. Mickey Adams takes off the knight. Bishop d6. The rook retreats, and now pawn up to e5. Again, shutting down that bishop on b2. Queen c2. Apparently a new move in this situation, but it's hardly a new type of position. Now, however paradoxical it may look, and using traditional yardsticks, this bishop is actually black's bad bishop because it's locked on the same colour as the central pawns. I think white should probably go bishop a3 if he wants to make his life easy. Now, it has to be said, Jones needs to win this game, but bishop a3, I think, is possibly the best move. Just getting rid of that liability. Okay, you exchange off your supposed good bishop for the bad bishop, but at the same time, you know, this is a pretty comfortable position for white, much more comfortable than the game. And this was the continuation of Brautingen versus Gauthoff, Berlin 2015. All the same, this position looks as though it's heading for a draw to me. There'll be further liquidation, and again, it's very hard for white to use his trump of the queenside pawn majority. Another way for white, simply to get the knight to d2. But again, this tends towards equality, because once you put your knight there, you've probably got to put it on e4, and then black is happy to trade. Why not? I mean, for Mickey Adams, a draw would not be a disaster in this game. Black against one of his main rivals, he's ahead in the tournament, and black remains very comfortable after bishop b4, rook f1, as long as he avoids the trap bishop h3, queen h5, which of course Mickey would see in an instant. So I'm not sure, whatever white plays here, black just has a comfortable position. So queen c2, queen c7, knight d2, bishop f5, and white goes rook e2, still seeking to complicate. Well, this is going to sound like repetition as we go through the moves, but white could definitely consider knight e4 here, just clearing the decks. There'll be some exchanges. Black goes a5, white doubles up. Again, it looks as though it's heading for a draw, but if anyone, black's for choice. I mean, you can certainly go f5, why not? And then a move like bishop b4, driving the rook off the e file, and all white's moves on the e file have come to naught. He's still slightly worse. Probably going to be a draw, but if that's the best white's got, it's pretty uninspiring. So both players mass their rooks in the e file. White to try and attack, black just content to shut up the shop and play very carefully. White goes a3, black restrains the majority, and now a rather vague move, queen to b1, because I think at this stage Jones can't really see how he's going to play for a win. You know, I think it's as simple as that. So probably intends some idea like bishop c1, trying to get b4 in. But this was another position where white could have, and probably did, consider the relieving exchanges after knight e4. But again, you're going to get these exchanges, and the best white can hope for a position from a position like this is a draw. You know, black's got good moves. He can play f5 again, or Mickey could play rook e6. Absolutely no problems for black whatsoever. So queen to b1, bishop comes back to c5, h3, h6, a small interlude where both players take a bit of time out to make the position safe for their king, and now knight to f3. And once again, knight e4 was a candidate move with the usual exchanges. But I think the problem this time, and I think it's a rather serious one for white, is the move queen to d6. This will oblige white to protect the pawn on a3, after which the move f5 increases in strength. So already at this stage, white's position is on the downhill slide, and black is starting to take over. Queen d6, again eyeing up the pawn on a3. Very good indeed. Queen d2 doesn't help that much, black just goes b6. White has the same problems. Jones tries bishop c1, trying to complicate matters, because of course if black takes on e5 at the end of it, a3, at the end of it e5 will be en prise. But now Adams comes in with a very good move indeed, e4. And that's the move that White's got to watch out for in this entire system of play. Because if Black can play this successfully, he just blows open the position and the white pieces start to look very clumsy. So I think we can say that at this stage, Adams' advantage is increasing and White is fully on the defensive. So White takes. Now in the commentary room, we thought that Black's intention here was to go d3. But it turns out the move Mickey plays is much better. And the reason d3, although it looks good, is not as good as knight takes e4, is the move e5. And that turns the game on its head. Well, it's White's best chance. Black takes on e2, White takes on d6 with the queen, bishop takes d6, and now e takes d6. Makes Black's life a little bit awkward. And the reason it's awkward is that if he goes rook e6, White can reinforce that pawn with c5. And suddenly the position's not at all clear. Just dropping back. Black can obviously play rook d7, that's a bit more passive. Again, White plays c5, but the idea is to go knight e4, attacking c5. Then White can play bishop e3, and if Black takes on g3, we have another desperado move, bishop takes h6. And the position after takes, b6, b4 is not at all clear. I doubt Mickey Adams will want to go into this position. His extra exchange is of no value, and White's queenside pawns are coming down on his head. Fortunately for Adams, and going back to the game itself, knight takes e4 is just crushing, because White has still all the threats to deal with, including knight c3, which is going to be a real knockout punch. So bishop f4, I'm not sure the move b4 makes any difference. Black's just going to take it. White has the same difficulty. So he plays bishop f4, queen to d8, knight comes back to d2, and now in comes the knight to c3. And I think we can say that from this point on, although it's a little bit difficult, Adams has got it all under control and wraps up with brilliant technique. So White takes on e7, and Black just takes back, no problem, no need to take the queen just yet. White takes on e7 again. The issue for White is that if he moves his queen, knight e2 check is just a killer. And, well, the white position is a wreck. So rook takes e7, trying for some tricks. Of course, Black takes the queen. Rook takes b7, and now another very careful move here, the best move, bishop d6. Dealing with White's threat of rook b8. White takes, he doesn't want to, but he has to, and now again tries a trick c5. And this is based on the one mover, queen takes c5, rook b8. Adams sees it, White pushes on. Could he have tried anything else? Well, scarcely, because the problem is that after knight c4, Black's got queen e1 check. And after king h2, Black can play bishop f5. That is the move which not only saves the day, it enables Black to win with a winning attack. Queen takes f2, he chops on f5. We can keep it simple. He goes in to try and get a queen, and now queen c2. In behind the passed pawn, and knight e3 is the killer. So with the tactics working in Black's favour, Jones tries c6. In comes the queen again, check, king h2, and now this move bishop f5. Taking away all the threats and basically finishing him off with threatening queen f2 and knight e3, and there's not a lot Jones can do about it. So he tries knight e4, Black's happy to take, rook b8 check, king h7, he gets to take the bishop with check, Black recaptures c7, and now knight takes f2. We can let White queen as queen h1 is mate. So king g1, knight takes h3 check, king h2, queen c2 check, picking up the pawn on c7, White resigns. A game which, again, typifies Mickey's style and shows why he really is a class ahead of the other grandmasters in this tournament. I mean, you could say that David Howe and Gawain Jones are excellent players, but Mickey has really shown his class over the last couple of days, and that was a very classy performance, really. I mean, he kept the game tightly under control all the way through, and egged White on, come on, play for the win, and eventually just took control and demolished White with an excellent counter-attack.